come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever. Amen.
And for the record, that is called to order, not adjourn. Getting ahead of myself. We're going to start with a roll call.
Trustee Dyson.
Present.
Trustee Maxey.
Present.
Trustee Bruton.
Present.
Trustee Robinson. Present. Trustee Jackson.
Present.
Trustee Collier.
Present.
Mayor Bryant.
Present.
Administrator Washington.
Present.
Roll call.
The quorum being established. First item on the agenda is approval of the previous minutes, which is October the 31st, along with October the 26th. Give the board some time to review, then we'll entertain a motion. Trustee Robinson.
I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the previous minutes from 10/26/2021 and 10/31/2021.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Robinson, second by Trustee Bruton, to approve the minutes of October the 26th and October the 31st, 2021. Any questions? Seeing and hearing none, let it be known by roll call.
Trustee Dyson.
Yes.
Trustee Maxey.
Yes.
Trustee Bruton.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson. Yes. Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Collier.
Yes.
Roll call.
So moved. Item number 2, communications and announcements. Clerk.
Good evening, citizens. Just have a couple of announcements today. The Village of Robbins cordially invites you to our annual senior Christmas party, which will be Sunday, December 12th, 2021, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Community Center, 13800 Trumbull Avenue in Robbins. Pickup is available. Please RSVP by December 2nd, 2021. You can do that at the Village of Robbins Administration Office, calling 708-385-8940, extension 260. Or you can email L. Gosa, that's L, G as in George, O, S as in Sam, A, at robbins-il.com. Village stickers for 2022 will be on sale December 13th, 2021. All vehicle stickers must be displayed on your vehicles by February 14th, 2022. These stickers are still gonna be the same as last year, $30 for passengers. Senior citizens, $20, a limit of 2, a total of 2 per household. Motorcycles, $26. Recreational vehicles, $40. Transfers and replacements, $5. Trucks, gross weight 8,000 pounds or less, $45. Gross weight 8,001 to 16,000 pounds, $55. Gross weight over 16,000 pounds, $85.
What was the passenger?
Passengers, $30. And if you have any questions, you can always call the village. Clerk's office is 385-8940, extension 224. Payment can be by checks, cash, credit card, and debit cards will be accepted. That's all the announcements that I have here.
Thank you. Moving down the agenda to item number 3, administrative reports. Starting with the mayor's report. First of all, once again, good evening to the honorable board and to the citizens of Robbins. It's always great to be in your presence. We're going to start off with first, State Rep Bob Rita was sent the request of the village's needs. Just to follow up on the last report I gave you, I met with Bob Rita on that following Monday. I believe that was the, quote me on the date. Hold on. That was the 15th. And State Rep Rita was given all of our needs, along with the list of some state funding that's down in the Springfield with DECO. So looking forward to following up that. We do have a village administrator's report when we talk about the village hall, so I'll let her talk about that. Moving on down, we have, once again, I will always report this, we are working for a grocery store, okay? I bump into the citizens all the time, and it's gonna take some time for some economic development to actually be visual here in the village, but once again, internal structure comes before external movement, okay? Internal structure comes before external movement. All right, you gotta get the in-house right first. So please continue to be patient with us as we establish, clean up, and move this village forward. Robbins United Turkey giveaway was a huge success, all right? Once again, happy holidays to the citizens. This past weekend, we came together as a community and we serviced over 300 residents with turkeys. All right, that's a huge accomplishment in year one of this administration. We want to thank our sponsors, the Southland Black Chamber Foundation with Dr. Darden and Erica Darden, State Rep Bob Rita, Senator Emil Jones, the Eisenhower football team, Citizen Tyrone Maxey, and then the friends of Mayor Darren E. Bryan. All right. Moving on down the line to public safety, we did pass the last council meeting 8 additional cameras, which total 12 surveillance cameras within our community. We're still working out on some signage with the paperwork. Some documents wasn't sent over, so my administration is still waiting to sign and complete that execution, but it was completed on the board side last council meeting. It still needs to be executed on my end with some signatures. Body cameras and tasers are on the agenda tonight to be passed. We are continuing to invest in our police department. All right, we are continuing to invest in our police department, and we are still currently in the midst of contract negotiations. Let's talk about the fire department right quick. We do have a new to us / used fire truck engine that is on our way. I'm gonna let DC Malley talk about that at a later time. And that concludes the mayor's report. Village administrator, did you have a report tonight?
Just briefly, I'll just echo what the mayor said. We have to have internal structure, and that's my job. And so in every single department, we're working to make sure that we have the appropriate processes and procedures before we make decisions. And so we talked today during the water meeting about developing ordinances and things that will help us be able to make decisions that we can back up, right? We don't want to just make decisions and make changes without having hard justification for why we're making those decisions and with board approval for those decisions. So that's what we're working on tirelessly. I'll just say that I know snow removal is a big issue, especially with the weather changing. Public Works was able to get 3 snow plows up and working right now, and so they're working diligently to make sure that we can keep our streets free of snow, but still please be patient because we still have a limited amount of Public Works employees, so just be patient with us. And also just in the finance department, we are working to make sure that we get a hold of all our bills. I'll say it now, I'll say it again. We have so many bills that we literally find new bills every day. Somebody else is saying that we owe something, and so we're trying to make sure that we have contracts in place that can justify us paying anyone before we pay them. And we want to make sure that we cut back on some of our expenditures where we can, so we can reallocate funds to where they're needed the most. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is there a representation from the Robbins Cow Park Eagles in the crowd? No, there's not. All right. Anyway, I'm still going to recognize them. They're supposed to be present tonight. The cheerleaders are now going to nationals. Okay, they're going to nationals. So We did have some recognition earlier this month with our football team, and they won the region or the state. But now our young girls are now representing Robbins at the national level. So that do deserve a hand clap. Okay, and then also the coach did let me know that at the same time they had also been invited to the global competition as well. So I don't know what the globals consist of. I don't know if they compete to be the world champs. I don't know, but we will recognize them when they come. So I'm gonna invite them back out for a future council meeting so we can give them that recognition that they deserve. Also, we want to recognize our Seahawks. The Midwest Seahawks is a Robbins-based organization that partner with other communities. They too is a young football and cheer program that has had recent success in their endeavors as well. So we want to recognize that. And that concludes my report. Letter B, the clerk's report.
Just wanted to report for the board's request for the month of November. We have collected $2,225 in fees from transfer stamps.
Clerk, is that a flat rate, or it depends on how much the house costs? How
It's based per pin. We have it's 100 per pin number on houses that are sold. It's $25 if it's a exempt property. So say if they're putting it in trust or quick deeding, and those are $25. The others are $100 per pin.
Does that conclude the report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let me retract how there are not mentioned on the minutes. Our community outreach coordinator, Ms. Gosa, for getting that turkey giveaway together for us this past week. I just wanted to state that on the record, along with Mr. Derek Bryan as well for advertising that. Okay. Letter C, the treasurer's report.
Yes, Mayor Brown, I have treasurer's report. Ms. Kim, could you give an overview of the treasurer?
Okay. Thank you. So very briefly, as of October 31st, the beginning balance in our general fund was $211,380.72. Our ending balance was $355,312.07. For the water and sewer fund, the beginning balance was $114,501.61, and the ending balance was $119,480.45. And for our motor fuel tax, the beginning balance was $400,878.31. The ending balance was $417,948.09. Across all funds, our bank beginning balance was $838,729.45, and the ending balance was $1,002,352.18. In addition to reading those off, I have actually started making something that looks more user-friendly. So we actually have these nice, pretty charts that show the beginning and ending balance of each fund so that you can kind of see the difference, and they're also labeled with the amounts. So anybody who is interested can see these, and it now looks a lot more easy to digest than this big thing of a chart, this big chart of numbers. So it's a first pass at it, and as we continue to work on it, we'll improve it.
Thank you, Ms. Kim.
Anything else, Trustee Brewer? Okay, for the record, once again, we hear a lot of monetary numbers, but this village currently operates off the general fund. Okay, the general fund was what again, Kim? About?
It was as of October 31st, the ending balance was $355,312.
Okay, so that's what the village operates off of. All those other accounts and numbers are special projects and allocated for specific purposes. Item number 4, standing committee reports. I'm sorry, correct. Let me stand back, stand to be corrected. Let's go back to letter C. I need a motion to accept the treasurer's report given by Mr. Kemp.
Mayor and Board,
Trustee Collier,
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Treasury report read by Mr. Kemp.
Second.
moved by Trustee Collier, second by Trustee Dyson to accept the treasury report as stated by Mr. Kemp. Any questions? All right, seeing and hearing none, let me know on my roll call.
Trustee Dyson?
Yes.
Trustee Maxey?
Yes.
Trustee Bruton?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Collier?
Yes.
Roll call.
All right, so moved. Now, item number 4, standing committee reports.
Mayor and Board,
Trustee Collier.
yes, I have a committee report from our Water Department and Public Works. We just met prior to this meeting this evening. Good afternoon, everyone, and Board. Good evening, sorry. One of the main things we focused on was, as piggyback on what our village administrator said, is that we are working on ordinances to, so that we can do it correctively, as far as making some payment adjustments. There are a lot of, meters that have been run improperly, we're getting wrong meters, readings, and other things as such. So in order to do it correctly, we want to make sure that it's written in law, to state it so it goes fair across the board with everyone. But before we go further with that, we just want to create that ordinance with that. So we pretty much just discussed the water adjustments, the ordinance is what we were working on with the water department. But as usual, I always say, just please continue paying your water bills and just keep doing good with that for right now. As far as Public Works Department with Mr. Wells, we discussed that we are getting the salt pad together. And we have a temporary one right now. We're working on getting a permanent shelter for that. We do have 3 snowplows working right now, working on getting a team together once we realize what our budget is, so that we can have a better help for the winter. So look forward to that coming in the near future. Other than that, that's pretty much all I have for my committee reports.
Thank you, Trustee Collier. Standing committee reports.
Mayor Bryant,
Trustee Robinson.
I'd like to first say good evening to everyone. Thank you, Ms. Gosa. I'd like to echo what the mayor said as far as, establishing all the events for the community outreach, being in communication, emailing me. It reminds me about what's going on, so I really do appreciate that. Also, applications for the holiday season, seniors, if you guys need any Christmas baskets, reach out to me and I will make sure you get an application. The license plate readers are continuously working, and so I'm looking forward in the future to the board approving the expenditure of that expense. Just as of early as 1 o'clock this morning, those plates were able to help the police officers to solve and get closer to clues on a double homicide that just literally took place. The police officers have given us compliments stating that the cameras have been strategically placed in great locations. We didn't just put them anywhere. We looked at data to actually drive our decision about where we're going to place those cameras. And so I am grateful that the board even initially approved just for the trial. But so far, within the first 15 days to 30 days, the cameras have been extremely beneficial, not only to our department, but also to other departments to help us solve shootings that have happened here in our village, that they've taken these cars to other municipalities. And so we've been able to connect, kind of like Facebook friends, to solve those crimes. And so the license plate readers from Flock Safety are most definitely worth what we're going to be spending on them. families in need for the holiday season with children also reach out to me. You guys can reach me via email, trobinson@robbins-il.com, trobinson@robbins-il.com. Ordinances, so I am working with Chief Shepherd to establish an administrative tow ordinance in the Village of Robbins, just so that the citizens are aware. The administrative tow can happen as a result of, say, driving on suspended or revoked license, having drugs in the car, driving under the influence of alcohol, and we're looking at establishing this ordinance with a minimum of a $500 fee for people to retrieve their cars back, their vehicles. The other thing that I wanted to mention, so the mayor and I were part of a group called Balancing the Scales, and we're really fighting hard for equity in the school system, specifically District 218. So I just want to put it out to the citizens on next Tuesday, November the 30th. There is a district-wide educational advisory committee meeting at District 218 Central Office, which is located on 107th and Kilpatrick in Oak Lawn. We really need representation from the Village of Robbins. There's hardly any black or brown faces there. Our village is very underrepresented. I've been a part of the committee as a parent. This is my 6th year being a part of this committee, and we definitely need more representation, more voices. If we're not saying anything, the needs of our students will continue to go unaddressed. And then lastly, I want to say that I really have been enjoying working with the other trustees behind the scenes. It takes a lot because we have to call each other up one by one to have conversations. And we are really working towards moving this village forward, and I have been enjoying my time learning from them and also just working with them to see what we can do to move our village in the right direction. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Oh, the time for the meeting is at 6 p.m. And I also saw that Mr. Buckley shared it, I believe, throughout like the Robbins Connections pages or whatever. So we really need people at those meetings. We really need you guys there. We can't complain and not show up. We have to actually show up. There's one African-American member on the board, and that is Board Member Carter. And that's it. She's one voice, but we need to go in numbers if we're really serious about changing the educational system, some of the policies they have in place, some of the protocols. We have to show up.
Okay. Standing committee reports. Trustee Calvin.
Yeah, I would just, I'm sorry, residents, I would like to add something else. As far as reading our meters, we've been having issues with reading meters because people have been parking on top of the meters. I don't know if it's knowingly or unknowingly, but please be aware when you are parking that you might not be covering one of the manholes out there so that they can get a proper reading. So, that was all. I just wanted to address that, please, thank you.
Trustee Collier?
Yes.
How would they know if they're?
Manholes, just if you see a manhole, or in the parkways, sometimes in the driveways, well. Well, they look like manhole covers. It's what? Who said it? Who said it?
They look like media covers. They look like media covers.
That is all. Thank you.
Trustee Ward, do you want to add that?
Yeah. The covers.
You don't want to add anything?
Any.
Okay. Chief Shepherd, did you want to add anything?
Just basically, just to back off of Trustee Robinson. Sorry. Welcome, I would say that. The flock cameras that she mentioned are really, really essential tool that we've been using lately. Over in Public Works, we have 3 vehicles right now. 2 of the vehicles were used in the random shooting that was going on. One was a Maserati and the other one was a Charger. We would not have been able to recover those vehicles unless, we didn't have the flock system. Because they were spotted over in Dalton. One of the Dalton officers actually towed the vehicles, called us, let us know they were over there. We were able to recover. And they weren't the smartest criminals in the world. They left rubber gloves in there, they double cups, There was a couple other things, but a very important item was a driver's license inside the vehicle for us. It's like winning the lottery. It's just unheard of. So, but without the flock cameras, we wouldn't have been able to we wouldn't get the call from Dawn, which wouldn't get to the vehicle, which wouldn't have it recovered. Also, again, last night we had an incident that was isolated. A gentleman went out to sell some drugs. Sale went bad. Robbery turned into a double homicide. Shot him and the girl that was in the vehicle. But again, we were able to use the flock system to see the vehicle moving around in the neighborhood, to know that he did not live here, but he visited quite often. So that let us know he was going around dropping off his little purchases. So that the system, invaluable. It's really a good system. That's about it.
Thank you, Chief. Standing committee reports. All right, moving down the agenda to item 5, ordinance, resolutions, contracts, and agreements. There is none. Moving down to item number 6, which is new business, letter A, the accept the warrant list. Trustee Bruder.
There's no warrant list.
Okay. There is no warrant list tonight, so moving down the agenda. Letter B, the approval of Unicode services. And I'm actually going to turn this over to the clerk for an intro.
Mayor, I wasn't expecting that. Unicode is a codification service that is very much needed, that we can get all of our ordinances codified, or we can have them online, one place for the citizens and the board, because we're shuffling through all these papers and it's been a mess. So the board has received the information as far as the services and what it would cost. We've gone over this several times, so now we're just asking for approval so that we can begin this process, which is getting all of our ordinances to this company, and they're gonna get them all codified and organized for us. It's gonna take about 10 to 12 months. Takes that long, and then from there, they'll be on the website and we'll be moving forward. So this is just having the board to approve. The cost is $12,000, did I give you up? $12,950, I believe, is the cost for it. That's the initial codification cost.
Now, waiting for the board's pleasure for a motion.
Mayor Bryant,
Trustee Robinson.
I'd like to make a motion for the approval of Unicode services.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Robinson, second by Trustee Jackson and Bruden to approve the Unicode services. Any questions? And I just want to make sure that we got this noted for the minutes, the exact price for the citizens and for the record. That's $12,000.
950.
Okay.
Perhaps we split it up in payments. So it is $12,950.
Okay. Is there this is my own personal questions now, because I did see you all communicating, everybody was good with the understanding, but is there a contract or anything with this?
It is, it's in the paperwork that everybody received.
Okay.
And once you all approve it, then it'll need a signature.
It'll go to me, okay.
And it'll go from there.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, let it be known by roll call.
Trustee Dyson.
Yes.
Trustee Maxey.
Yes.
Trustee Bruton.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson.
Yes.
Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Collier.
Yes.
Roll call.
So moved. Letter C, discussion of the 2022 municipal calendar dates. Mr. Buckley, would you want to give an intro? I know you brought this to the agenda.
Yeah, so the only reason why I brought this to the agenda is to make sure that we plan out our year and have everything on the website, and also any other place that is public for people to know how our year is gonna look in 2022. So I did provide all the dates and holidays and other different functions that goes on within the 12 months of 2022. I just ask that you guys look over it, and any dates that you do not feel need to be observed, then we can talk about it. And then we can come back to discuss what you want to do. But I do have everything from January going all the way to December.
If I can make thank you, Mr. Buckley. If I can make a recommendation to the board to review this, outside of the meeting, and then, we can convene together, probably sometime in December. I know we have one council meeting in December. Yes, we have the 14th, no wait, we have the 14th and the 28th. Second and fourth Tuesday in December. I don't know if we're gonna go on a winter session or whatnot, but December the 14th, we can reconvene with the same topic to solidify a 2022 schedule for the upcoming year. Do we agree? Mr. Schroeder, does that need a motion to table it, or is this discussion, right?
It's discussion, you know.
Okay. Moving down the agenda, letter D. The resolution of amending the Village of Robbins seal. I changed this on my own wherewithal, so I think we need a resolution for this, Clerk. Okay. Is there a resolution present tonight to read?
I guess we should have had a discussion of it.
Okay. Well,
You can do that for the next, but I guess we all. I didn't hear a word you said. I'm sorry.
He asked was the resolution present, and I said no, because I guess we were gonna discuss to change it to
Oh,
what the seal is.
so if we don't have it, then there's nothing to discuss. So, you can talk about it if you want, but you don't have to read it or anything. If they haven't seen it, there's no use going through it.
Yeah, we're changing it from we learn by doing to achieving the community spirit.
let me get the citizens on the same page. The citizens look like what's going on. All right. So what happened was the village seal, what you see in front of the council bench, was changed with the logo and the slogan. For those of you all who's been Robbins citizens for many, many years, the old village crescent read achievement through community spirit. And the last administration, right, it's on the village flag, the old crescent. The last administration changed the village slogan to "We learn by doing." That didn't fit my administration. We learn by knowledge, we learn and we achieve through community spirit and stand on the history of this village. So we changed it back to the slogan that once was on our village crescent. And I didn't know that needed a resolution. I just did it. All right, but we will adopt the resolution going forward. And with that being stated, we're going to move. Any other discussion with that? We're going to move down to letter E. Letter E, approval of BB, Benson and Brown and Associates engagement letter for the services for the purpose of conducting a forensic audit. Okay, and let me give this intro as well for this letter. So, we've been in office now for 6 months, and since being in office, we have discovered some questionable offenses when it comes to our finances. Some of those offenses includes people getting paid certain amount of salaries that doesn't align to our budget or appropriation. It aligns to federal dollars not being allocated for, or there's no record of spending federal dollars. It goes to abundance of water accounts being rectified or changed or amended without any record or without any payment or without any documentation, and the list goes on. It's important for this forensic audit because we want to send a message and finally get to a point that the Village of Robbins is serious about its finances. The Village of Robbins is serious about moving forward. The Village of Robbins is serious about making sure that people who came into our town and wasn't held accountable for the taxpayers' dollars get some remedy for that fact. I think the budget for this item is no more than starting off $20,000, and it will be expended from the ARPA funds. I think that's a good intro. Without further ado, I entertain a motion, and then we can talk about it after the motion.
Mayor and Board of Trustees,
Trustee Dyson.
I move to approve the B and A engagement letter of service for the purpose of conducting a forensic audit.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Dyson, second by Trustee Jackson and Robinson for the approval of B and A engagement letter for the purpose of conducting a forensic audit. Any questions to the board? All right, let me sweep this up too, so I can kind of give more understanding to the citizens as well. Miss Benford, Alicia Benford, will be under the direction of our finance director, Mr. Kemp, and our village administrator, Ms. Washington, along with our finance chair, Mr. Bruden, Trustee Bruden. With that, we will make sure that whenever she's on the clock, she'll be directed to look at specific things. That's very important because she charges $200 per hour. Okay? And that's very important because when I first got in office and was talking about forensic audit on the campaign trail and things of that nature, we didn't know where to start. But now we have a scope, we have a directive, we have an exact area in which her time will be short, to the point, and if it goes over, we'll stop her with our budget of, once again, $20,000. Nothing more than that. Okay? And honestly, we're gonna stop her at 10, bring her back to the board, and then keep her going at 10 if we need to do more investigative work. Okay? So I just want to make sure the board and the people understand the pricing, what she's doing, who's going to be monitoring to her, and things of that nature. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Dyson.
Okay, we did say we're gonna have basically like a ceiling as to how much that, we budgeted her for.
Mm-hmm.
What if she finds something that's gonna take her to a higher level? Will we come back and revisit it and increase it, or we just fine?
Absolutely. Her preliminary budget is 20 grand. That's it. That's all. I don't care what she finds. Anything higher than that will come back before the board for another approval for the expenses. But this approval right now is only for $20,000. That will be expended out of ARPA funds, not the general fund. Clerk.
Earlier in the committee meeting, you said not to exceed 25, so are we changing it to 20?
I did add the 5,000 for cushion. What you all want to do, 20?
I say 25 because at first we talked about 30, and then we scaled it back $5 grand. Like you said, we can do a temperature check with her at 10 grand, to see where she is. Because I just did the math after the retainer. That would be at least 30 hours. 30 hours is a lot of time, to be looking. So I say, if you guys are okay with that, 25,000.
Okay. Let it, board.
Because remember when she was here, she explained, I forgot what that one item was that she said, but she was like, basically, if we go after this, then you're already kind of paying for her with that one item. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember her talking about that. It's just important because like Trustee Dyson was bringing up, even if, say we go after this and say we do, well, we know that there is something there, but when she finds it, we can go back after those people to recoup that money.
Do we have to vote on it?
We do, but I want the minutes to reflect the budget amount that we talked about and approved tonight.
Yeah, I can agree with 25,000.
Sure, we're doing show of hands or we vote?
This discussion,
As long as we revisit it at some point, we can work it out.
it'll be revisited at 10.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Okay.
So where are we at, 20?
25,000 for the record. Not to exceed $25,000.
revisit at 10.
And revisited at 10,000. Monitored by Mr. Kemp, Village Administrator, and Trustee Bruder. Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, let it be known by roll call.
Trustee Dyson?
Yes.
Trustee Bruton?
Yes.
Trustee Maxey?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Hyde?
Yes.
Roll call.
So move the approval engagement letter is the initial contract. Okay, so that is the contract that now has been approved, I'll sign, and it'll be effective, okay? Letter F, discussion and approval of purchasing agreement of tasers, body cameras, and evidence.com from Axon.
Mayor Bryant,
Trustee Robinson.
can we bring Chief Shepherd up here at this time for this item?
Yes, Chief, 3 minutes, man.
No, Chief Shepherd, he did present this information to us before. He gave all the trustees, the information, several contracts that we have with other companies to look at. And so we wanted to put this on the agenda because A, we need to get in compliance with what the law states that we need to have. And then B, this is, extra safety precautionary measures for our police officers, ourselves, and Chief is going to further explain it.
Just real quick, we did introduce it at the last board meeting, and I did give out the packets to everyone. Basically, again, Exxon is a world-class company. It's all throughout the United States. It's what's respected and used throughout multiple police agencies and municipalities. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to supply us with the latest up-to-date body cam that has all the functions that we need to utilize. The most important function in that camera is the ability for me or Deputy Chief Redmond to key into the officer while they're on scene. So if their camera's activated, we can go into their camera and see what they're seeing and actually give them instructions if we need for them to either continue on or disengage from an incident. Same time, they're going to give us the latest tasers, state of art, which we really need because we have the assisted living facilities here with the mental, subjects there, and we need something else to help us because the only other thing we have is lethal force, and we don't want to utilize that. With that is evidence.com, which is how we communicate with the state's attorney's office. So if we take pictures or we have documents or we have videos of witness statements, we can send it automatically to the state's attorney's office instead of looking for flash drives and it may get corrupt or the disk got lost or we don't know computers its own. And also in that packet is the VR training, which is going to be utilized for the officers in order for them to do scenario-based training, which gives them better skills and abilities to handle situations when they're on scene. With that, because I only got 3 minutes, any questions?
How many of these cameras, sorry.
Trustee Maxey, I'm sorry.
How many of these cameras are we gonna need?
The state requires that each individual officer has their own body camera. So therefore, we purchased 28 because that would be the average department size that we would need to keep us going afloat and within the state guidelines.
28.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
So what does a camera actually cost?
How much does a camera like that cost? They don't sell cameras individually. It's not the camera. The cameras are pretty cheap. They can go anywhere from $100, $300. It's not what the camera that we're paying for that costs. It's the storage, the cloud space. Because there's only 2 companies that's authorized to do the storage space per the government requirements, which is FirstNet, which is AT&T, and Verizon. So we have to pay for the cloud space. Understand when the officer is inside of a vehicle, the camera has to run 24/7 while they're inside the vehicle because we don't have in-camera videos. And the state statutes say without in-car video, we have to have the actual body cam running. So every minute, that's using up, space, megabytes, gigabytes, and all that other stuff, and we have to have unlimited cloud space to get that. So it's the cloud space and the storage that costs the money. It's really not the equipment. Any other questions?
Chief,
Yes.
you mentioned compliance,
Yes.
state compliance.
Yes.
So are we out of compliance?
No, we're not per se out of compliance right now. The problem is the number of officers that we're operating with right now. For example, Starosa, he can only work now, I believe, 60 62 more hours now this year. After that, you can't work at all anymore, because there's a 1560 cap on part-time officers. And considering 99% of the department is part-time officers, once they get to that cap, they can't work anymore, else the state is going to start fining you. And on top of that, if they go into what they call full-time employee status, there's a $3,165 fine, I think it is, per officer, like per pay period. So that's part of compliance.
Right, but Chief, we in Illinois, officers are going to be required to have body cams by when is that, in 2023?
2025 is the requirement for the smaller departments, so what we're doing is we're getting ahead of the curve. And what we're doing is we're getting into compliance with accountability and transparency, which is really valuable on both sides because of the village liability and also because of the citizens that are out there. If you get a complaint, you'll be able to key into the camera and see what happened, not only from that officer's camera, but any other officer that was on the scene also, which protects the liability of the village, at the same time protects the reputation of the officer, which at the same time could actually protect the citizen. So it's an invaluable tool. We're gonna have to go that way because the state statutes say we have to go that way, so we might as well get ahead of the curve, learn what we need to learn now, and be in compliance with everybody else. Any other questions? Before I leave, I just want to make sure that I thank the mayor for the forensic audit. That is an excellent idea. I also want to just put out there from a law enforcement angle, anything that's discovered in an audit, if it's criminal in nature, the mayor kind of has a responsibility and obligation to report it to the proper authorities, or else they become a part of what's going on. So just when you all are thinking about it, it's very smart and wise for this board to be doing that because they can cut it, report it, and then move forward. That's all. Yes, ma'am.
How much is the Verizon service?
How much is the drives and service?
The Verizon service, how much is that going to be?
Well, it's not a Verizon service. FirstNet is through AT&T. So Exxon, they go together with AT&T in order to provide the cloud service. So the actual service annually is $59,000, which covers a license to utilize the equipment that we purchased. So we purchased the equipment, but we have to have a license to operate and utilize the equipment. So the state statute, which makes it a little bit difficult for us, requires that each individual officer has a camera of their own. We can't basically share cameras. They have to have their own camera because that's the footage from that officer. Each time they work, that's the camera that we will receive footage from.
So the $59,000 includes everybody?
That includes.
Or just one individual?
No, that includes every single camera, every single taser, the annual subscription to evidence.com, the VR training unit, the VR equipment, the certifications that's required, the 2 trainers that come out, the setup crew. It's a whole entire package.
And how many officers do we have?
Currently, right now, okay, hold on, I gotta do the math because we lost some more. We're currently at 15 because we lost Sergeant Oliveira, who decided to go with the Phoenix, and we lost the other officer who was pretending to be injured, and when we sent him for a fitness for duty, and he decided to just go ahead on and leave. Yeah, he decided to leave. And again, like I told the mayor when I first came on, we gotta weed them out. We gotta get rid of them so we can go ahead on and move forward. We do have 9 new applicants that we're gonna try to push into the academy. We have another officer that's gonna come on to be our juvenile officer, and we have 2 other applicants on my desk. So we're doing what we need to be doing to get to where we need to go.
So we have to purchase 28 of these, right?
Yes, ma'am, because what's gonna happen is because of the chip shortage and how everything's going with anything that's electronic today, let's say we get our 6 people released from the academy and I only order the 15 cameras I have now. Now I have to try to get 6 more before I can put them out in the field because they can't work without a camera. The thing about this plan is once we go to the camera system, we can't revert and say, we changed our mind. The law says if you go, you gotta go and you gotta stay.
Chief Shep. Possibility. I know you mentioned the yearly subscription.
Yes.
So is this contract per year, each year?
It restarts for 5 years. It's a 5-year contract.
Okay, so within 5 years, so to speak, if the state came out with a grant and we was able to get it that way, then we can put in the bill.
There is a grant that comes out every March. It's March. Don't quote me, it's the March or May, 1 or 2. But yes, you can actually apply for the grant, which they will subsidize some of the costs of your cameras annually.
So would it be best for us to wait for the grant, or do you advise that we move forward with this right now?
I wouldn't say for you to wait for the grant because there's no guarantee on the grant. You have to understand, each individual agency in the state of Illinois is applying for the same actual grant funds at the same time. There's no guarantee that you will get that money, none whatsoever. You know, but the cost of, think about it like this, and this is where you have to actually put it together. $59,000 a year sounds like a lot of money, but what happens when we have that one incident that the $2.5 million lawsuit is coming in to that gentleman? We're gonna wish and pray we paid for that $59,000 in order to refute that lawsuit that comes in. So sometimes we have to spend or pay what it costs in order for us to save and move forward. You know, it's nice to save, but it's more important to plan.
Are you gonna be around to the end of the meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I have a question about license plate.
Okay.
License plate keeps being stolen.
Okay, no problem. Yes, ma'am.
So that you will apply for the grant then from your office, from the policeman.
Well, what we're working with now is I spoke to the mayor about finding grant writers to write grants for not only the police department, but also for the village itself and for, you know, other areas in.
Okay.
Grant writers are not that expensive. I mean, they go anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000 a year, but it's well worth the cost that you invest inside the grant writer.
They need to know what they're doing.
Yes, yes. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. What I do want to emphasize too is that most of these funding is coming from, once again, the American Recovery Plans Act, which is one of the earmarks of that money is to invest in public safety. What you will see from this administration for the next several months before the summer of 2022 roll around is an investment in public safety. I would not have another summer like we just had. I would not have another fall like we just had, right? Safety is the top priority before you can move an economy forward. No business want to come to a town that's shooting. No people want to come move and reside in a town where there's homicides, right? You got to get control under this town when it comes to gun violence, safety, and things of that nature. So there will be an abundance of more votes and initiatives and things of that nature that target our fire department and our police department in the next couple months. So I'm willing to invest in that. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor Bryant.
Any other discussion? Okay, then I entertain, is there a motion on the floor already? I know we got, it was a long. It's roll call now? Okay. Well then, seeing and hearing none, I entertain, no. Roll call?
You didn't do a motion. You didn't do a motion. You didn't do a motion. No. Because you started talking, you asked the chief to come up.
Okay, trustee Maxson.
I make a motion that we approval of the purchasing agreement for tasers, body cams, and evidence.com from Axon.
Second.
Moved by trustee Maxey, second by trustee Bruden to approve the purchase agreement for tasers, body cameras, and evidence.com from Axon. Any questions? Seeing and hearing none, let it be known by roll call.
Trustee Dyson?
Yes.
Trustee Maxey?
Yes.
Trustee Gruden?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Collier?
Yes.
Roll call.
All right, so moved. All right, we have a special guest here tonight. It's always good to have our legal counsel with us. This next letter is dealing with the MWRD, all right, letter G, which is the resolution approving the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between MWRD and the village for the acquisition of parcels for the flood control project along the Midlothian Creek. All right, so how I want to bring this topic to the floor is I want, if possible, our legal counsel to this present what happened between Thursday to now, I guess, and what brings us tonight.
Okay. It's a pleasure, as always, to be before this board. I just wanted to kind of give you an update
We had a great meeting, question answer session, in which we had the attorney for MWRD come. We had the attorney for Cook County Land Bank. We had questions from the audience, questions from the trustees, and there was a lot of information presented at those meetings. We had a lot of thought about how we would proceed forward, and there were two issues that that stood out at the end of that meeting, follow-up matters that this board wanted to be followed up on before they proceed and consider this. Because we did talk about the necessity of moving forward, because if we do not, this board does not make a decision like tonight, then unfortunately, the time would have expired on the agreement with MWRD, which means that the same agreement may not be on the table in January. And if that's the case, then, you know, they get to turn around and decide about the funding could be both the funding associated with it, as well as the proposal from MWRD that had their board approval would have to go back to their board. And so by us voting, whether we vote against it or not, we have that opportunity to say something before that happens, because if it goes back before MWRD in January, if this board is not in agreement with it, their board may select other options. And that's something that I kind of addressed, you know, with the board at the last meeting. MWRD, they have the legal authority to take property through eminent domain. They do not have to, if they can prove a government purpose, they do not have to do anything besides go through a legal process. And, you know, I've done that before on the other side with the town. And what the only defense you have is how much. They have to give you the appraised value. But if they can prove that it's a government purpose and it's a good government purpose, they could do it. So my concern is that eminent domain, if it goes back to their board, they may look at other options like eminent domain. Well, let's just take this property. Now, the property currently is in the hands of Cook County Land Bank. Cook County Land Bank, they are in the process of, they want to sell it to us, so we can turn around and if they sell it to us, we don't even have to pay for it. MWRD pays for it, but we have to pay for the maintenance and the upkeep of that property to make sure that the stormwater drainage that they have built stays intact. So we do have something to do in the end, but if Cook County Land Bank, who currently have this property, my concern too is that if they have the property, they don't have to necessarily, if we don't want to take it, they don't want to keep it, they don't house property. Cook County Land Bank is, you know, a body that actually gets property and convey it and get it back on the tax roll or get it for some type of government purpose. So with that being said, we decided, okay, the board's going to hear it tonight so that their door of opportunity to say yes or no would be there, but the board wanted to find out about two things in specific. The mayor made a comment about the falls. He was very voiceful, I believe some people in the public, about the dolomite. They believe that it's valuable, and this board kind of expressed they want to know what's going to happen with it and have a say-so on what would happen with it. Well, we had a conversation with MWRD, and we wanted something in writing. The intergovernment agreement just talked about the land, but never really talked about the spoils, but we wanted something in writing. So MWRD, they did get something in writing to the mayor today. The mayor called me, and he wasn't comfortable with it because he wanted that word dolomite in there. And so I could respect that because that was what was said to me. And so we called MWRD attorney and we explained that the mayor specifically wants that word mentioned. We would like the spoils to clearly state what this board has said, that this board has authority to say what happens with their spoils. And specifically, they wanted to name dolomite, including and not limited dolomite. So after our conversation, the attorney from WRD said we are correct. That was the spirit of the agreement. They spoke to the engineer that wrote the letter, director of engineering. We got a letter, and it clearly says that, you know, the village has the right to keep all their materials, including spoils, including but not limited dolomite, because we believe that that's something that this board wanted to have authority to say. Now, it wasn't discussions of whether or not you want to keep that right, or whether or not the engineer is going to say that maybe we could not keep all of it, just keep some of it, but the board wanted that right. So that right has actually today not about an hour or two before the meeting has been resolved. Excuse me, has been resolved. Now we had another issue. Another issue, they wanted to know, the board, I believe you guys or the public wanted to know more about this funding. They gave us a letter about the funding, detailing the funding for, it's about a page and a half. If you would like, may I read it? You bear with me just so the whole board would hear it, because the letter just came out and I want to make sure that they told us they gave it to us before, and here it is now, and it's dated August 6, 2021. It says, Dear Mayor, the Board of Reclamation District is excited to be partnering with the Village of Robbins on the flood control project in the Midlothian Creek project. This project began in 2014 with preliminary engineering analysis of the area potential flooding migration project. By 2016, the scope had extended to an overview of the stormwater issues in the vicinity. As a result, the village and MWRD developed a conceptual plan that includes storm water improvement to address the flooding along Midlothian Creek that currently impacts approximately 140 acres inside Robbins, from the preliminary engineering to the final design. MWRD has expended nearly $2.5 million on engineering costs alone for the project. The project will provide significant improvement to the existing stormwater drainage system through construction of a new diversion channel east of Cassie from 135th Street to the Calsat Channel. Conveyance improvements on Midlothian Creek between 137 and 139, and the naturalization of stormwater storage area north of 137th Street and east of Cassie Avenue. This project will be constructed in 2 phases. The first phase includes a new diversion channel, and the second phase includes the Midlothian Creek conveyance improvement in new storm water storage area. Pursuant to the intergovernmental agreement entered into between MWRD and the village in 2019, the district reserved the right to construct the project, provided that sufficient funding is available and approved by MWRD board. The purpose of this letter is to confirm that the district has obtained authority to advertise for construction for the first phase and has budgeted for construction of the second phase, which is planned to commence in 2022. On September the 3rd, 2020, MWR Board of Commissioners granted the authority to advertise the first phase, the project under contract number 14-253-AF, diversion channel for flood control project on Midlothian Creek in Robbins, with an estimated cost of $7,500,802.33 and $9,187,250 through this authorization funding for the first phase of the project has been reserved. Plans for the second phase, which includes the construction of the Midlothian Creek improvement and naturalization water storm areas, are being finalized, and authorization to advertise the associated construction contract will be submitted to our Board of Commission early 2022. The MWRD has invested significant resources to advance the flood control project on Midlothian Creek of Robbins to ensure its successful implementation, and is committed to seek this project through to completion. By doing so, the village and MWRD can demonstrate to other communities what can be achieved through stormwater partnership towards creating a better region. Now, I would like to kind of point out, I give some words, some minor words, and just, like in parentheses, MWRD, IGA, but that's the spirit of the letter. 90% of it was what I read. I may have skipped over a few words, but I really want to point out that this is something that the government, another government entity, has spent a lot of money and invested. And I know that the board has some concern, and I sat there and I took notes and I listened to the public has some concern about this project moving forward and reservations. And I could respect that, but as an attorney, I just want to make sure, I don't have an opinion whether the village should do it or should not. I just want to make sure that the village is advised as to the advantages and disadvantages of doing so. There's a lot of money here that they have spent. And my concern is that if the board does not take this land, and there's some problems with it, because we did talk about how in the meeting, when you start to do the construction on land that has all these restrictions, what you can build and what you cannot build, and their engineer, you know, we don't have our own engineer per se to say what we can, so we get something that we could honestly say that we know that we have to maintain. Now, exactly what we could build on, that's something that has to be determined by the engineer. It has to be approved on. And there will be some costs associated with it, but then at the same time, if the village doesn't go through with the transaction, like I said, they may be in a situation where it goes back in January and MWRD may say, well, to their legal department, how else can we get this property? We invested too much money to not get this property. And it may not be this board, it may just even give it to MWRD. I don't know who they would do, I can't say for sure, but I do know they don't have, the only option is not this board. And I wanted to make that clear, but at the same time, the board doesn't have to agree to take on that responsibility on maintaining. They'll have to take on that responsibility. And then another agreement came up, is that the land has already been obtained, the kind of land bank. And that was one of the concerns that I expressed before. Well, how much is it going to cost to obtain? It's going to cost a whole lot of money. You know, we need to know, legal fees, you can estimate, but, until you go to court, I've done them through no cash bill. It's the same process with tax deed. We don't know what. The good thing is they already got the land. So we know what the legal fees are. So that was a good thing because, the initial agreement talked about how we'd be responsible for legal fees and it gave us a certain amount, but we couldn't say for sure at the time when it was only an estimate the MWRD was giving us. Now, the County Land Bank, they have the property, they're ready to close, and that's one of the reasons the time is of the essence. In order for us to complete the contract and everything and get the property, we have to do a closing, the holidays coming up. It's hard to do anything after December 15th when it comes to real estate, so we would like to try to get done before then. That's why one of the reasons on the agenda. Now, Cook County Land Bank, I did look at the agreement of us acquiring this land, and I was talking to the mayor earlier about one of the things I decided before coming here is that, I looked at some case law. There's a statute of municipal code about how municipalities obtain some land, but there was this case that kind of made it look like the rules should be different. And they talked about the municipality should have an ordinance. And I brought the cases. You have to have an ordinance, and you have to have 2/3 vote in order for the land to, the village to accept the land. So we have this agreement. Technically, the Cook County Land Bank agreement, although it's the second item on the agenda, it ties into this because if we agree to this, our requirement is conditional. We have to now go and obtain the land. You follow me? Because if we don't obtain the land, we can't be acting in good faith inside the agreement with MWRD. So although Cook County Land Bank item is just regarding acquiring it, I recommend that the board has a 2/3 vote. And I do have before each board member tonight a copy of the ordinance, and the ordinance just clearly states that we have an agreement with MWRD, and we have an agreement with Cook County Land Bank, and we just want to, memorialize this. The mayor and the clerk are authorized to execute any necessary documents. So it's a complicated issue because it's something that's been going on with this village for years. And I know it's a very emotional issue, and it was really good that I thank the board for accommodating my request to have a meeting, and the mayor sent it up so the board could actually hear and just talk about just this issue. Because the more and more I hear, the more and more questions this board does have, and the citizens do have, and I've been, taking notes and trying to see if we could get answers to them. But, in the end, I think that we have tried to do as many question and answer sessions, and the board has exhausted that. And I think if we could have a vote tonight on these two, then we could make a decision of how the village wants to move forward. Whether it's yea or nay, the village always have rights. So even if you don't want to do it, you have rights. If you want to do it, you have to comply with the agreements, and your rights are inside the agreement. So it's just which way. Excuse me, Trustee Robinson, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but in all fairness, so 3 of us are totally new to this process. So even though they keep saying that they've been in this process for a long time, this is a lot of information to actually digest and to understand, really, like what everyone's motives are in this whole process. Because as we're talking, it's like someone says something, then something else comes up that you didn't even think about.
Yes.
So now it's like you're trying to put that piece of the puzzle back into the whole big picture when you have citizens. Some say they want it, some say they don't want it. You know, for me as a trustee, I feel like I'm a steward of whatever it is on behalf of the citizens, regardless of like how I might personally feel about it. So I feel in a sense that some of this is just like rushed, like they just want us to hurry up and understand it. Again, we're talking about like 7 to 8 years of them planning and meeting and doing all these things, and literally we didn't even get this information the first day, the first month. So they want us to digest all this like within 5 months, and there are still some questions. So although I was not at that meeting, I was with my daughter doing her thing. I watched the entire meeting.
Okay.
So I was in the loop. When the one lady that spoke, the heavyset Caucasian woman, when she spoke and she was basically saying like, well, like the way I took it was like, well, if you guys don't do something now, it doesn't really matter because like we own the land anyway, that kind of thing.
If I make it to now, in your defense, you're absolutely right. It's a lot of information, and you know, and that's why. Only reason I'm calling this and asking them, the board, to make a decision. I don't want a decision to be made for them. I want them to at least make a decision. Now, there was some concern because at one point somebody stood up at the meeting and said, well, so that means there's no more flooding, and it's all going to be a possibility of flooding. But what are we doing all this for? And so, and then they explained how it's less likely it's going to be in a better condition. So I can see how there's so many concerns here. Again, I do understand that about building on the property, because like the mayor made a comment, he wanted a sports complex, and they say, well, we have to have it open. He said, but I want a stadium. You know, so there's a lot of things that I do think this project is not a perfect project for the village. When I say perfect, I mean there's going to always be something that I believe that I heard that somebody's going to be concerned about. You're going to make, as it goes through, somebody's going to come back and say, well, you know, it did flood. You know, the day it flooded, it's going to be a whole bunch of people inside this hall telling you, well, you guys did this. And so I understand that there's advantages and disadvantages to this project. I'm concerned the most with is just making sure the board understands that if they don't make a decision tonight, because the reason they need to make a decision tonight, we need to get these contracts moving, and I would have to participate in the closing for those properties before the end of the year. You know, as an attorney who's been practicing for over 25 years, I'm gonna tell you right now, after December the 15th, I don't even schedule anything for real estate because it's so hard to get in a title company. Every close is on vacation. Everybody's calling off work. So we have a deadline. So I feel safe by saying that if it happens tonight, it could still possibly go through. Now, if the board doesn't do anything, the approval, the contract amendment that they're doing is extended. It only expires at the end of December, which means that we can't consider something the MWRD no longer has on the table because it has to go back to their board, and their board has to decide to reissue with a new date. And if they come back with a new date, I'm not sure what their board's going to do because their board may not come back and say, okay, we want to give them more time to do it. I'm not sure if the funding, because the way they had the funding set up, it could possibly be allocated. We could ask for it to come back. I think those funds, the fact that this opportunity, whether the board feels is good or bad, may be taken away from this board if they do not act tonight. I wanted the board to act. Now, if the board says no, of course, I will be your advocate, and I'm gonna see whichever way the board wants to go. We can find out what we need to do with our rights out. All right, we want to try to pursue it and ask them to bring it back in January. I could do that. If the board wants to go forth with it, I'll be at the closing, we get everything done, and we're gonna move forward. I'm only concerned that I don't know if the board is ready per se, because there was a lot of questions from the citizens, and a lot of questions from the board, but if they don't act or do anything, a decision's gonna be made for them, because non-action means that it expires, and now, in order for it to come back, MWRD board has to say they want it to come back in that format.
Hold on. Who we got?
No, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that you have a motion so you can discuss the issue. So you should have a motion on the if you're gonna vote yes or no, up or down.
Okay.
We can't discuss it before we approve or
No.
disapprove?
Well, see, the Robert Rules of Order are to keep order. So to keep order, every time you have an item on the agenda, you should have a motion to accept it or to not accept it. Or you could have the attorney give a report or something like that, but then there's not a discussion about that. That's just a report. Either you receive a report or you don't. So when you have discussion, you should have a motion. And then there's unrest, and the unrest is the discussion. Then the mayor says, is there any more unrest? No one says anything, then you vote.
So we can't have a discussion before the vote. Let's just skip the motion, then finish the discussion, then we vote.
Motion to discuss.
No, you motion to either approve or disapprove. Usually people disapprove, and if they don't want it, they just vote no. But you can't discuss it until there's a motion to discuss something.
So after we discuss it, can we go back and approve or disapprove?
Right, that's the whole
That is
thing.
the whole objective? I make a motion that we disapprove. First Amendment of the Constitution. That's the way it would work?
No.
Make the
Now,
motion.
you really want to make a motion to approve, and if people don't like it, they vote against it. And it fails.
I make a motion to approve the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between MWRD and Village of for the acquisition of parcels for the flood control project along Midlothian Creek.
Yeah, you need a second. And if nobody seconds it, it dies. And it just dies and you stop discussing it at all, and you move on to the next item.
Can we get a second to finish the discussion?
If it died, could we put a different motion in?
You can always put a motion in that the chair entertains.
Mayor Brian,
Trustee Brooke?
I move that we table the resolution approving the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between MWRD and the village for the acquisition of parcel for flood control project along Elopian Creek.
I second.
Okay, but there was a first motion that was on the floor.
Oh, he didn't get a second, so that's
Okay,
bad.
died. All right, so we got the motion for trustee Gruden, a second with trustee, Jackson and Dyson to table the resolution approving the First Amendment to the intergovernmental agreement, between MWRD and the village for acquisition of parcels for a flood control project along the Midlothian Creek. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I was gonna ask you, what we have been discussing is, we'd like to have an engineer, like our own, to tell us about that land, because them just saying like, hey, you guys can only have A, B, and C, like what they said in that meeting was, it has to be something open field, like football field, baseball field, soccer. But we want to know for a fact, because I don't know if they're just saying that, just so they can have the land however they want it to be. But they also said like having the structure there, the water, the way that it would run off, that was like their concern. But to the board, I think that we should have somebody else, on our side to look at that and tell us and give us their opinion, because we know what we want. And I feel like if we do go forward with the project, we need to make sure we definitely get everything that we want.
I agree, trustee, and that's one of my recommendations I did have regarding the board actually having an engineer, the very first one, the recommendation, because they did send me those values, which, you know, I forwarded to the city, and there's volumes of things about specs. I'm an attorney. I can look at the legal contracts, but the bid specs, we do need an engineer. And at the meeting, there was some discussion about them paying for our engineer, and I know that was discussed, and MWRD was like, oh, no. But, you know, what happens a lot of times, and, you know, the villages typically it's best for them to pay for their own engineer. I've seen it where, because they want to make sure there's no conflict of interest with the engineer, what it could have been in the initial agreement, the village could have been allocated monies for an engineer pursuant to the funds that when they were setting up the matter. And then the village could have used those funds, you know, for their own engineer. But right now, the agreement doesn't have one, and they kind of showed their hand at the meeting by making a comment that, oh, no, they can't do it, they won't do it. I think now they ask for it afterwards, it may be difficult, but it would be a good investment for the village because the engineer is going to be on the village side. We have all the specs. They even gave us everything we need for an engineer to look at. We could tell based on the engineer could do information and do some research on exactly what can and cannot be built. And they did volunteer their engineer, and I think it's good to use their engineer in the sense that you could get some preliminary work done from their engineer, but then your engineer do the hard part. Okay, now this is what their engineer is saying. This is what we want. What do you think? You follow me? You could use the engineer to even for confirmation after your engineer says you can do it, just to make sure it's not going to be a dispute. But again, like I said, it's something the village could do. And my only concern, I just want to make sure, you know, as an attorney, we always got to tell you the good and the bad. The bad is that if it doesn't, I understand if the board is concerned and they want to move too quickly and too hastily and do something wrong for the village. So at the same time, when they don't move at all, I don't know what's going to happen in January. I can't say, you know, how the board would feel if, you know, if they feel like they want to take the project completely another direction, or they want to continue to keep us in the process of it. Although I can't say what's going to happen based on all the money that has been spent on this project, I do know it's going to exist. Now, whether we're going to be a part of it and going to own the land that it exists on, that's my concern.
So that's my concern. It seems like that's what I'm getting at, because when it comes down to MWRD to the project alone, it's been approved. It's a done deal. It's going to happen regardless, correct? So now we're pretty much community talking about 7 parcels. And if we wait too long, basically what you're saying is they can give that to someone else. And that'll just be more of our property we just lost, correct?
They can even keep it.
They can keep it for themselves, but basically it won't be ours.
And the disadvantage, the real reason they don't want it, to be honest, is because if they get it, they're in the business
They gotta upkeep it.
they're in the business of stormwater trace. Now they're gonna have to maintain it. They want to give it to us because then they don't have to worry about maintaining. They gotta check on to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. So they want to give it to us, but yeah, it is true. I can't say the property has already been acquired, and I know Cook County Land Bank don't like the house property this unlimited amount of time period. And the attorney was there. She said we want to we're gonna give this property away. She even made a comment: this property will be given away because it's not something they hold. So I don't know if it's gonna be MWRD, some other developer.
They can basically give it to Crestwood, Blue Island, or anybody surrounding us.
They can say, well, you know, you're gonna maintain it, and so they may get the same deal. And so my concern is that it's a very difficult situation to be in, because I think if the village doesn't say, if the village says no tonight, my biggest concern is that that we don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen in January, but I do know in January I'll be making sure that we can get whatever the village wants. If the village wants me to see if we can still have the same contract on the table, which is more time for engineer, I can do that. If the village doesn't want to do it, and they want to make changes to the agreement, say, since you have to reconsider the agreement, can you add us some money in for engineer? I can do that too. I can do whichever way, whichever direction the board wants me to go.
Brian,
I had to do some research because I knew I was doing something that was wrong. When there's a move to table, there is no debate. You have to vote on it.
Okay. So there's been a motion on the floor for a table with the second roll call.
Trustee Dyson?
Yes.
Trustee Maxey?
Yes.
Trustee Gruden?
Yes.
Trustee Robinson? Yes. Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Powers?
Yes.
Roll call.
So move. The item been tabled for the next special regularly scheduled council meeting.
No. So what happens now is it's like literally lying on the table. So if you want to take it off, the next time you have a meeting, someone has to say, I motion that we remove whatever that item was off the table. And then it's up, so then you can make a motion to approve and discuss.
Thank you, Executive Assistant Stroger. Your wisdom showed tonight. Thank you.
This is a nasty business.
All right, so, I mean, okay, let's move on to the next. Number 2, resolution approving the agreement between Cook County Land Bank Agreement and the Village of Robbins for the purchase and sale of parcels of real property for a flood control project along the Midlothian Creek. Trustee Bruton.
I move that we table the resolution approving the agreement between CCLBA and the village for the purchase and sale of parcels of real property for a flood control project along the Midlothian Creek.
I second.
Moved by Trustee Brutus, second by Trustee Jackson to table the resolution approving the agreement between CCLBA and the Village of Robbins for the purchase and sale of parcels of real property for a flood control project along the Midlothian Creek. Roll call.
Trustee Dyson.
Yes.
Trustee Maxey.
Yes.
Trustee Bruton.
Yes.
Trustee Robinson. Yes. Trustee Jackson.
Yes.
Trustee Pike.
Yes.
Roll call.
So moved. Anything else to come before the board? Is there anything else to come before the board?
Hey, Brian,
Trustee Bruton.
I know that we didn't get to discuss it, so I want to make a remark on that, because that was like,
Trustee Bruton.
the reason in which why I chose to table that item is because when we get this special meeting, that was a great point that you highlighted, and then when they, like the attorney said, once they showed their hand, that we doing a project of this magnitude with no engineer. She just said, she's an attorney, she don't understand specs. There's not nobody in this room that understands what we doing. Like, there's positives and there's negatives to it. I could live with trying to wait to see if, to run the risk of Kim give more time in January. I can't live sitting on this board or sleep at night and you vote and you give your community away or something. I can't do it, sorry about that.
I agree.
Trustee Robinson?
I agree with Trustee Bruton. I know for me, I don't want to make an uninformed decision. I'm not an engineer, I don't know, but if someone explains it to me, I can comprehend very well in multiple languages, but this language that they're showing me, I don't comprehend it, so I need somebody to break it down, so that we know that we're getting exactly what we want. Because we're not just getting a sports complex, you know, we wanna utilize that sports complex to generate money for the village as well. And so I personally don't feel comfortable moving forward without knowing exactly what we have by having our own engineer to take a look at it. And like you said, it would be great to get them to do the preliminary footwork and then maybe have our own engineer to come in on the back end and say, you know what, I do agree with what they're saying, or I don't agree, this is what you guys can actually do, or this is what you can't do. But it's like having a second opinion, you know, from a doctor, just so that we can make sure that we're making an informed decision. Because like you said, I don't wanna make the wrong decision, you know, based on just basically what they're showing us, you know, so.
Brian?
Trustee Jackson.
I agree with the trustees. The engineer issue goes along with no plan. We didn't have a plan, no one at the table. This is a MWRD project, MWRD plan with no Robbins input. And that's troubling to a sense that some of the agreements that they had, some of the items in the agreement rushed us when it came to development on the site in the future. It rushed us when it came to maintenance. If we didn't do the maintenance right, they're gonna take the land anyway. So either way, if we don't do what they want us to do, you know, we caught up. We would really like to have a voice, an engineer to talk to, a planner. We didn't have a planner. And as you spoke, you said that we were able to have both of these items written to the budget for this project.
We could have asked.
We could have asked,
nothing was done. I wasn't there. This mayor wasn't, sitting in his seat at the time. And, so I just think that it's only right that the board, state their pleasure. We would like to speak to someone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Anything else to come for board trustee, senior trustee Dyson, do you want to say anything?
Senior trustee. Well, I don't blame the board for taking the action that they did, because there's a lot of moving parts here that's been going on for years. A lot of things that wasn't explained to the old board, because we never really had meetings and discussions like this in city council. The scope of the work, what needs to be done, what's going to happen with the spoils or the aggregate or what have you. None of those things was brought to the board back in those days. The one thing that was brought up that was very troubling and concerned me concerning this whole thing was that the engineer from Water Reclamation stood right over there where the attorney is sitting and said that the creek was not part of the project. So I asked the question, how could the creek not be part of the project when the creek is the problem? So he gave me some kind of answer, so then I asked him about it being their waterway. So he emphatically said that the creek was not their waterway. So I asked him, who did this creek belong to? And he said, different people. So with all of the wrangling that was going back and forth and things of this nature, I think the board did the right thing in tabling this until they can find out for sure what's in the agreements, what's the scope of the work that's going to be, having somebody that has the best interest, the village best interest at heart, come out and speak and act in behalf of what's needed and what's wanted here in the Village of Robbins.
Trustee Maxey.
I can agree with the new members of the board wanting to sit down with an engineer. I can agree with that. I go back on this matter back to 2016 when they first came out. And along with some of the people, some of the citizens out here, we all were on board. We all agreed with what was going on. Sounds like a good deal. Since talking to a few trustees, and Trustee Dyson especially, pointing out some of the things that would be issues, like my concern is that we fix the flood zone. That is my main objective. I'm not so much a sports arena, a sports dome is fine, but that can come later. We can put that anywhere. But my concern is that we fix that flood zone. Now, if they're not going to do anything with the creek, and the creek is the only way we can fix the flood zone, then I'm all for having the engineer come in and tell me that. So we table. I go along with the trustees. Let's get us an engineer as soon as possible and try to continue to move this thing forward.
Okay. Before we open it up to the citizens, one last statement that I'm going to make is that I don't care what entity you claim to be, you're not going to come into my town and just take eminent domain without a fight. So let that be known for the record too, that despite wherever this goes, Mayor Bryan will make sure that the Village of Robbins is secured the best way that I can make sure. Let that be known for the record. I don't care if you're MWRD, I don't even care if you the governor. You're not going to come into the Village of Robbins and just take our land without fighting through the court systems and all the way up to the Illinois Supreme Court. All right? Comments for the citizens. Ms. Wilson.
Okay, first of all, I would like to go to the meeting. All my children went to District 218. I don't drive that far at night. I don't know if I could come here,
to the village and then ride with somebody. Do we have the van, we still have the village van or what?
A village van?
The van, is that still operable?
You know what?
What?
We don't have a village van, Ms. Fulson, but that's a great purchase and investment that I'm gonna think about doing.
'Cause I would like to go to the meeting. I served on that board when my kids was there. And so I'm there. I know you have to be there. I've been there. In fact, I helped my daughter have the first Black History program that they had, okay? And I took off from work and attended it. So I would like to go to the meeting. That's my first comment. The ambulance still is the Robbins. When I got sick in October, the ambulance had to come all the way from Joliet to pick me up and take me to the hospital. So we still don't have an ambulance service here in Robbins.
We do, it's Bud's. It's Bud's ambulance service. We don't have our own ambulance service.
Okay, still Bud. Okay. Snow is coming up, we're gonna have parking restrictions.
Let me get back to you.
Huh?
Can I speak on that? We do have signs up saying snow route.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where all of them are, but we do have signs up saying snow route. So
Well, I know, like, I don't live in the circle on Mexico, but my two sons do, and there's a real problem. The snow plow can't come down there, and they don't come because they say they can't turn around. So I don't know what you wanna do about that, but that's the real problem, and then people be stuck on Mexico. What else? Robbins Cable. Is that gonna be back on?
It is back on,
Oh, it is?
but it's not updated. It just got cut back on last week.
Oh, okay,
Maybe
well, I
about 2 weeks
haven't
ago, but-
checked it this week, so I thought it was still off, I apologize.
But we are actually, I actually put in the budget, to try to spend some money to get that up and running.
So it's running now? I didn't see
I'm
it.
sorry, Ms. Wilson, it's up and running, but it's not updated. Please, be on the lookout in the next couple weeks for it to be updated.
I couldn't get it at all when I tried it.
Reprogram, you probably have to program your remote, like make it go throughout the scan channels and then it'll pop up. It should pop on.
Oh, I don't know what that is. Okay, I have to try to get one of my grandchildren, I don't know what you're talking about. I just thought, I used to just turn it on and I'd go do it and I would get it. And it just gave me that same sign.
And search it, I'll talk to you after.
Okay, all right, I don't want to take up all the time, okay. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Wilson.
want to go to the meeting though.
Ms. Williams.
I'd just like to say thank you for cutting the tree down that was laying on my garage. It's gonna start sprouting again, and I need to, it's because they left it, it's still up to the level of where my garage is. And before cutting down trees from the other property, that property, they just start sprouting again and come out. They start growing all over again. I need to know what I can do to stop that from that tree from growing anymore, to kill it, I guess. Because it still hovers over they didn't cut it all the way down here, it still hovers over my garage. I appreciate those guys, they were very, very nice, they did the job very friendly, and I just need some information on what I need to do to keep the tree from growing.
If they cut it all the way down.
They didn't.
That's what they need to do. I experienced this. They cut it all the way down, you drill holes in and pour salt in it and it will die. I did that.
Okay.
But they gotta cut it down where she can reach it.
Ms. Wilson.
I'd like to say again, I appreciate the update on the murders here in the village, because I know I heard gunfire last night, and I was trying to find out exactly what happened, where it was. Because ever since I saw that body, that dead body laying in front of my house, I'm now paranoid. I'm like almost afraid to come out at nighttime for the random shooting and stuff that's going on. So I appreciate that update on that because I hadn't heard anything else about the other shootings that went on, you know. So I'm glad the police chief and you, Tiffany, addressed that because I think we need to know, because I called a lot of people today and trying to find out, did somebody get killed, what happened? And nobody knew anything, you know, so I was gonna ask tonight about what happened. But now I know.
Mrs. Williams, you know, it's not to like scare anybody or to create a frenzy, but it's just to be transparent to let you guys know what's going on. So again, if citizens are seeing things, they definitely need to call 911 as soon as possible. If you see something, say something.
I didn't see
You guys
anything.
abreast.
I didn't see anything. I heard gunfire. I hear gunfire practically, well, at least once a week I'm hearing gunfire, you know. And I just kind of got at the stage I'm very nervous about this now. I'm extremely nervous about this now. I wasn't gonna even come to this meeting because I was scared to come out at night. I'm getting to that point. So at least I know something did happen and somebody is trying to do something about this. That's all I need to know.
We are, and then there is a camera near your house, but it's not.
It's on Lydia.
Exactly. So we're again gonna look at the data to make an informed decision about where we're going to place the additional cameras that we approved in the last council meeting, because those cameras have 360 view, so they can look at, will see in all directions to be able to try to help us narrow down some of these other crimes that are happening in the village too.
Yeah, this camera is on, excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. It's on Lydia. The gunfire last night seemed to be coming from the Central Park area somewhere over in there. I don't know where, but it seemed to be coming from that area over there.
You are accurate.
It was on Central Park?
You are accurate.
Between 139th and Clerk.
139th and yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm getting very, very nervous. I'm getting really, really nervous, you know, about all this. And I just have to kind of speak my piece. I know each one of y'all can't do much about that, but something needs to be done. Something needs to be done. I got people that want to leave this, just talking to me, talking about that they want to leave. They've gotten scared. The seniors are scared. We're afraid. We really are.
Me too.
Okay.
It's the same.
Yeah, maybe you can run. I can't.
Some days I can't.
Well, just to move forward though, and to assure you that we are invested in public safety once again, right? We just passed several cameras. My goal is to lock down the new homes. I call your area the new homes next year, where each block over there has a camera with speed bumps. So once again, we are addressing the crime. It's going to take some time, but I guarantee you that the criminals will leave our town before the residents do. Okay, I can assure that. Also, the singers as well. The singers have a Zoom link. There was a Zoom link provided for the meeting tonight, so you all don't have to start coming out at nighttime. There's a Zoom link so you all can start seeing the meeting at your home. It's getting dark around 4 o'clock, okay?
Will I be able to speak on Zoom?
Yes, you'll be able to comment, and then the Zoom, yes, you will.
Yeah.
Ms. Rose, and then.
I have a question for the attorney. With you all tabling everything, is that gonna put them past the deadline for January?
Well, they want an engineer, and my concern is that unless they approve everything before, end of December next year, it's going to, I don't know what MWRD, because now the offer on the table has expired, and it has to go back to MWRD. And from my notes, what I understand is that the village want an engineer and a planner, and so if the mayor and the village board is okay with me, I was going to tell them it didn't pass, but can we renegotiate some allocation for the village to have those funds available to them? Because I think the village would feel more comfortable if they had their own engineer. But the village, if they allocate funds to the village and they reconsider a new proposal with that in it, and the village could hire whoever they want and use those funds to pay it, maybe they may feel more comfortable. But that's the conversation I was gonna have with the attorney if the village doesn't have an objection to me asking for it. Worst thing they could do is say no. But, you know.
And for the record, for Ms. Rose, what's the deadline for this year?
End of December. And so they had to actually, it had two components. They had the agreement had to go forth, meaning that we had to pass pass the agreement, and then we had to have a closing where the village actually received those properties. And my concern is that before December the 15th, it's always best to do any real estate closings, because if the board does pass it and go forth with it, it's almost unlikely to get a closing by after December the 15th from my professional experience.
I understand that. Now, I have something else to say. There are 4 of you all that were on the board in the previous administration. If you had any questions then, why didn't you ask them? At this point, you should know everything that should be known. The people that don't know are the 2 new ones that are on the board now. So there shouldn't be any confusion. There shouldn't be any reason why you can't accept this agreement. You should know everything. So you'd rather throw us as citizens under the bus than accept some money for a project that needs to be done. And this is what happens with black people. They never understand how to go ahead and progress.
Amen.
They know how not to, but they don't accept progressing. And I am really sick and tired of that. And I have been out here so many years. I'm tired of everybody blaming everybody. And you all have a habit of blaming somebody, but there's 4 of you all that you need to look at and blame yourself, because you're more the majority than the rest of the 2.
And why we don't have an engineer? What's the problem? You knew what we needed, why didn't you get one?
Exactly.
Why didn't you get an engineer? You knew that's what we needed. Why you still won't get one so we can move ahead? We've been working on this for 10 years. This is just don't make sense.
It doesn't. And this is something that you all could have done. Like I said, there's 4 of you all on the board from the previous administration. All of your questions should have been asked and answered at that time, and you should have an
Is it too
engineer
late
now.
to get the engineer? What's the problem?
Well, that was the objective, I believe, of the table tonight, to grab an engineer, Ms. Fulson. But I'm gonna let you all finish. I want to hear, are you finished, Ms. Rhodes?
No.
Go ahead.
No, we're just, I'm with Ms. Rhodes. We are just tired. We just tired. Our time is running out. And just to do all this work and see y'all throw it away.
Exactly.
It's depressing.
Ms. Fulson, we want to move this village forward. I promise you that. Ms. Rose, continue, Ms. Rose, please.
I can understand the 2, Mr. Jackson and Tiffany, I don't know your last name. Robinson. I can see them understanding, I'm not understanding what was going on. But I blame the 4 of you all that were on the board for not getting a clear understanding of what should be going on now and what we should be accepting. In January, we should be ready to hit the ground running. And right now, we are not, and you don't know what they are going to offer to you in January. It might not be nothing. It might be that you accept everything that they've already paid for, and that's it, and you get nothing else. And right now, you have an opportunity to accept what is going on and negotiate in January for what you really want. I'm sure there's room for negotiation after that. But if you don't accept it now, you're not gonna get what you're expecting to get in January.
Amen.
Can they sue us?
Ms. Rose, comment. Ms. Rose, first of all, we want to say and call this man. Let's start right there. The second thing is, since becoming the mayor, we have renegotiated and assured that this village is trying to win on every angle. For example, the recent letters that we just obtained tonight that assured that all dolomite and limestone and other materials are kept on the premises, which before that wasn't secured. We secured a sports complex, or hypothetically a sports complex, so we can have recreational purposes for our kids. That didn't exist before the board, or since I was mayor. There's a lot of loose ends. I understand that one can assume that if you sit on the board, you are knowledgeable of everything, but the main negotiator is the executive branch, which now I sit on the executive branch, which a lot of things wasn't negotiated on behalf of our village from the executive branch. And I'm not pointing no fingers, I'm just stating facts. I'm sitting in these meetings now with these big time people and having these talks that I wasn't privy to. Now, for the record, once again, we will move this village forward. The project isn't voted no. It wasn't voted yes, it wasn't voted no. Right now, it's just tabled. And that's to, once again, reassure that everybody, the legislators as well, is comfortable with moving forward with this project. That's really all I got to say. Once again, we've been tying up a lot of loose ends with this project.
Didn't I hear the attorney say that if this didn't happen tonight, that they don't know what's coming next in January?
Say that again, Ms. Williams.
We don't know what's
We
coming.
kind of out of order, but I'm gonna allow it tonight. Go ahead.
Did I misunderstand when the attorney said that if this didn't happen tonight, that she didn't know what was gonna happen next year?
That's not true. What she
I'm
stated,
asking.
December the 15th, she stated that after December 15th, the real estate with the courts get a little bit clogged up. So we can actually, what happens if this come back next week, right? Or it's back on the agenda the week after?
She's actually just stated January. She said January, so that's next year.
I'll let her clarify.
If I may, I recommend that it does happen tonight if they want to go move forward. Only because that if we have to do a closing until December 15th, this board could convene within 48-hour notice. They don't have to, they still have time before then to do so if they want to move forward. But if they don't move forward, and even if they do it on December the 15th, of course, I'd be more than willing to try to do the closing, to make sure it goes through. And then if that happens, I can always make an excuse and say, well, we were there, we couldn't do it because the title company was short because of the end of the year. But, so it's still impossible to go forward, but at the beginning of January, if it had not moved forward, it has to go back before MWRD board to consider what do they want to do.
What they want to do.
They may give us the same deal. They may change the deal at the request of adding the engineer and the planning fee that the village would like to have a budget for and including that in there. But it's something that they would have to, their board it has to go back before the board because it's now expired.
Well, it's unlikely we'll get an engineer in 2 weeks and him to say, okay.
I can't say that. Being someone who's aggressive, and I know that I'm one of those people who I believe you could find someone who's hungry and aggressive enough to do something in a timely fashion if they need to get it done. But, I'm not sure what direction is the board direction, but I cannot say they cannot get an engineer to look at this. They can get an engineer who's experienced with them and know how it plans and and familiar with how they set things up and won't have to read every page. So I'm not sure which direction, but they do have the option to do so. So I cannot say tonight it's my recommendation that it was done tonight. But ultimately, the deadline, January, if nothing was done, then MWRD agreement that's on the table will have to go back to them before we can consider it.
And this is the process that we're going to take right now. Mr. Haymore, I do see your hand. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to let my trustees just one more comment for the comment that was issued by the citizen, and then we're going to have Dr. Darden, and then we're going to have Brother Haymore.
I
Okay?
think Ms. Ward was before all of
Oh,
them.
I'm sorry. I didn't even receive Ms. Ward's hand. Okay, I apologize. So this is the order. We're gonna have the two trustees comment back to the citizens comment. Then we're gonna have Ms. Ward, and then we're gonna have Dr. Darden, and then Brother Haymore. Okay?
Yes, Ms. Rhodes. Ms. Rhodes, in response to what you were saying, I agree with you 100% about the comments you made about the other board members, but I was asking, and guess what? Some of the information that has been presented to us, they were not privy to before. And so this is kind of what the holdup is. Like Mayor Bryant was saying, there's some language inside of the documents that wasn't there before because we're comparing both of the documents. So if we don't know what's happening with the dolomite, the limestone, and whatever other minerals that are down there, people can do whatever they want. At least this way, we kind of have some control over what that's going to look like, because you know what, I think we could possibly even make money off of those minerals that are in the ground. So I just wanted to respond to you and say for certain parts of that, I do know that is true.
So they didn't have the knowledge of minerals, the things that you're talking about prior to this?
certain things they did not have the knowledge of. We're finding out now.
But this is the main point that we gotta emphasize again. Even if we did have the knowledge, your negotiator gotta negotiate, which is the mayor.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you all had the knowledge and it wasn't to your satisfaction of the answers that you were getting, couldn't you have brought it to us and we could fight for you all?
Let's just be honest, Ms. Rhodes, we didn't have the votes or the people a couple years ago. We didn't have the board, nor we didn't have people, right? Politics changed when I won the election. Now we got the people, now we got the votes, all right? Trustee Brewer.
Yeah. So first, I appreciate your passion, and I agree with you. You know, you got the foot in the fire as well as the youth do too, though, because our kids got to grow up here. So we both passionate about it, even if we agree. If we disagree, we just agree to disagree. To take it back a little bit, Dyson have always stood against this project. Probably still up to this day, I don't know. But we know his stance was. Maxie agreed with this project. Trustee Bryant, at the time, at first he was against it, but I think you came on board with the project.
Yes.
However, when he became mayor, he started to see some things, etc. And he's been the one, to his credit, to bring to the light that there's some loose ends to this thing when he became mayor. This is being handled completely different from when I was first got on this board 2 years ago in 2019. We wasn't sitting talking about this with lawyers in the room with certain levels of expertise. So we all have to accept some responsibility because anybody could have voiced it and said, why are we discussing something of this magnitude without lawyers and without the right expertise sitting at the table? Even from, it been going on since 2014. There was never an engineer sitting at the table. That's all of our responsibility to say, hey, we don't got the right expertise at the table. She just said she don't understand specs, etc. So it was never the right expertise at the table. Now, to my point, in 2019, when they voted on it, I was a month or two in. I abstained from the vote. So that's the back history on us four. He was for it, Dyson was against it, and positions pretty much ain't changed to this day. I abstained because I didn't know, and Mwrd became the mayor, and now we got more clarification. We're just all trying to do what's right. We're not voting it down, nothing. And the last point that I want to make, this is a business transaction. So, as the lawyer said, if they want it bad enough, sometimes in a business deal, the best way to negotiate with somebody is to take it down to the wire. Because if they really want this, within a week or two, they'll give us the money to go get our engineer, so we can make the best decision for our citizens. It's a controversial project. We're just trying to do what's best.
One last comment for Ms. Ward. Dolomite is a $30 billion industry.
Yeah, I just looked it up.
And that was finna leave our village without our control. Ms. Ward.
This will be short because most everything has been said. I want to first second what Ms. Joanne said because it's certainly true. I also want to compliment you all that you're now really interested in something that we would not sell Robbins downstream if we didn't think it was right. I mean, we're some of the people who worked on this project years ago, but from the communities that we got from the Robbinites who live here. I'm not an old Robbinite, I've just been here forever. I like where I live, I want to stay in the mud. So with that kind of attitude, how are you going to get people who would change their minds to change if they think that living wherever the flood is what they want for the rest of their lives? They're not thinking about their family or their children. But I want to say, the attorney, I think she's done a good job explaining what was there. And I'm always amazed that we are so against each other. I can't believe all the things you're saying that didn't happen before you got here. Maybe I just think that everybody wants to do the right thing. Okay, so now that you're investigating and you're looking, I will continue to support what you do and tell you how I feel, because I'll never get over it if I don't. So I'm going to try to listen and be better, and I want you all to do it. And don't just say no. The white man can't take nothing that we don't want to give him. So when you live with that kind of attitude that, you know, he wants to take what we got, well, what have we got? Okay? And we're going to wake up one morning in Crestwood and Maywood and Midlothian and Blue Island or whoever, and we'll be in this water-filled village by ourselves. Take from the white man what you can do and then do what the hell you want to do with it later. Don't just say no, because I don't like how you look or what you got. we evidently don't have all the money, or we would be doing something ourselves. So be open. Don't think that, you know, all that work we did was in vain. I don't think they're trying to trick us, and I'm glad you guys are thinking for us, you know. So, yay, I'm happy you did it. Please take it off the table, or we'll lose it in January. We'll go, oh, but we should have. And if we do, then we can always change it. Thank you very much for letting me run on. Love you all.
Ms. Ward, finish?
Yes.
Dr. Darden?
Stood up first to speak, but now I'm almost forgetting what I was about to say. I think that the conversation tonight, some of the things that I heard was very troubling. You know, I don't like people disrespecting black people, nor disrespecting the town of Robbins. It's irrational. It doesn't even make any sense. How could you possibly say that, oh, we'll just take it through eminent domain as if you're threatening us or something like that? It don't even make sense. And then we're going to do the project anyway. Well, if we voted for the project tonight, is it going to generate taxes for the village? I don't think so. So if they did it anyway, then what does it matter? What you trying to force us to vote for it for? That language smells of something very, very bad. What it is, I don't know. These people don't respect black people. They just don't. If they respected black people, then guess what? The Chamber of Commerce would be involved. Because when they do these types of projects in white areas, guess what? The Chamber of Commerce is involved. Their white economic development corporations are involved. But they haven't talked to us at all. They haven't talked to the black chamber. And in the South Suburbs, since we became majority black, the Southland Black Chamber is the most relevant chamber in the area. And anytime a company comes into a town and doesn't join the local business associations or the local economic development corporations, they show that they have no respect for that town. You're not going to build a major project in Joliet without joining the Chamber of Commerce in Joliet or joining the Economic Development Corporation. Now, I got an article that I had pulled up earlier that when a conversation about the creek was being had. Now, back in July 14th, 2021, there was a press release released in which the Illinois EPA awarded $1 million grant to fix the creek. Right? Where's their money? Because what happened to the $1 million to fix the creek? That $1 million came to Robbins and the MWRD to fix the creek. Not build this project, but to fix the creek. And someone from the MWRD told us at one of those many special meetings that we had that the creek had nothing to do with the project. So, I mean, what are we even talking about here? And now I understand perfectly why the board decided to table this conversation tonight. Because it stinks, it doesn't make sense, and would they trick black people? Absolutely. I-57, the Dan Ryan exists because they tricked black people. Built that highway up into a historically black neighborhood. Central Park in downtown New York exists today because they took away black people's land to build it. Would they be coming in here to try to take away Robbins if they felt like $30 billion in Dolomite was worth it? You're absolutely right. They'll take it away from us and leave us homeless somewhere. So I applaud the board for taking time to really look at this. And I just think that it's horrible that we're being threatened. Because this is the second meeting I've been in that I can recall in which it felt like we were being threatened by the MWRD.
I know I had a turn.
One last, hold on, Ms. Wilson, and then we're going to Brother Haymore. But Dr. Darden, did the NWRD ever follow up with you in regards to the minority participation conversation we had that last time? Did that go anywhere?
No, sir, absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
Member,
Trustee Brewer?
I apologize, but I gotta go to work. I need to.
Hold on, I still got it. Okay, 3 in the mayor, we still got a quorum. Go ahead, Brewer.
Okay.
Mr. Haymore.
Me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd like to ask this question. Is R.W. Robinson still the engineers for the Village of Robbins?
Yes.
Oh, they were never involved with this project that MWRD is talking about for Robbins? They were never involved with that?
No, Robinson Engineers had no preliminary work with the MWRD project.
They're not even aware of it?
I won't say aware.
Well, they're the village engineer. They should have been in on top of this from the beginning. And if they're not, you need to definitely not only table it, you need to have an executive session and get R.W. Robinson in here quick. If they're still the village engineers, they need to be on top of this and advise you more legally as to what can and cannot be done. Because they've been the engineers here for years and they know this area very well from a professional standpoint of view and from a maturity standpoint of view. They've been here for years and they're some good people. Okay, I just want to drop that on.
Thank you, brother. Anyone? Point well taken.
Well, the eminent domain, I don't know about.
Ms. Wilson? Go ahead.
I don't know about, what they can do to Robbins, but I know the Skyway, we lived at my aunt's house on the eminent domain. They took our house and gave us 30 days to get out. Gave my aunt the money. I was a young person at the time, I was a teenager. The Skyway that goes over there now. My aunt didn't want to give in. They gave her the money and gave us 30 days to get out on the eminent domain. And I lived through that. My aunt she's dead now. But I remember I was a teenager when it happened. On 70th and St. Lawrence we lived.
Did she have the bagging of the municipality?
So Chicago? That's a joke.
Any other comments from the citizens? Anybody? All right, seeing none and hearing none, thank you all for coming out tonight. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor Ryan,
Trustee Robinson.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting to our next regularly
Oh, we do got a closed session tonight. Sheesh. What we're gonna do is we're gonna ask the citizens to please dismiss. We do have an executive session tonight that we gotta conduct some more business. Thank you all.
Mayor Ryan, I'd like to make a motion for us to go into executive session.
Mayor, do you need the village team to do executive session? Okay. You're welcome.
Give us a second.